Today is a sad day. Today is a day that Deorr was reported missing 6 years ago. 6 years too long, 6 years with no answers. Welcome to the Up and Gone podcast for Deorr's 6th year anniversary.
Today's really a sad day. It's been 6 years since Deorr Kunz Jr. was reported missing from Timber Creek Campground in Idaho. He was only 2.5 years old. It is one of the strangest cases I've ever heard of. There was no scent of him there, and the searchers, they brought in dogs, horses, they had ATVs, they had a helicopter from Montana, found nothing. It's like the child was never there.
Yes, how can a child go missing in just that short of time? A lot of people don't think that this case is being solved because there's some truth missing, and the parents may hold on to that truth. Today is Deorr's day, and today is a day that we get to remember Deorr, put aside everything that has been negative, just focus on Deorr today. Just 6 years, gone too long. That's too long.
There are people from all over the world that know about Deorr, and they pray that he's found. And I don't know, the parents apparently moved on.
It's what it appears to be like, right?
It sure does. The sheriff, Steve Penner, always closed the campground for the first, 5 years?
Around June of every year. I wonder if he's doing that this year.
The end of June. Well, it's already passed, so
Yeah.
I doubt if he'll do it. I mean, what can he do? It's been searched.
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a time where you just got to either, I understand if you really believe that child is up there 100%. I guess if you have the same kind of drive that we do in other directions of the case, then it's going to drive you to keep going, keep looking. Every square inch is important. But to be honest, I really don't think he's up there. And Grandpa Jimmy has said that I believe if he's up anywhere near that mountain, he is closer to where it is softer ground. And, we're not going anywhere close to the end of this case. It's cold. There's something that's happening this year where it's possible we can get Klein back. Got to raise $25,000 reward. Not reward. We got to raise the $25,000 GoFundMe amount for him to come back. And from that point on, he'll take care of his own staff. And hopefully he picks up where he left off. That would be really cool because he's the only one that really thinks that the parents are guilty, and in the direction that he is going seems to be going somewhere right before he got cut off. So hopefully he makes it back to the team of Deorr.
Yes, I think he will. He has the drive.
Yeah, I agree.
He even said that, this case keeps him awake at night.
Don't at all.
To this day. And it's been 6 years. So. And I know Frank Dilt, he's an amazing man. He's retired from law enforcement in California. He's also a retired U.S. Marshal.
Very highly respected.
Very highly respected, yes. And if he thinks the parents are being less than truthful, then, and Klein...
Yeah, he kind of got 2 out of 3 here, less than truthful.
Right.
And then you do have, law enforcement that can't list the persons of interest up. So, there's always a possibility that they may lean on that, or they hope that they're not guilty. But in the past, it has been claimed, by Sheriff Lynn Bowerman that the parents were guilty, and he believes that Deorr is, past. I believe, if that's the case, it was definitely an accident. It's a shame, So if it wasn't an accident and he was kidnapped, boy, would I be one of the first people to apologize to the family. um, if something,
always that slim chance
yeah,
that was, I wouldn't say kidnapped. I would think that it would be a planned abduction,
right,
adoption,
right.
or sale.
Yeah, I really couldn't see a planned death. That's just not something that I think is in their nature. It's just not in many people's nature. Usually when you're covering up a death, it was an accident.
And we have to remember there's one way in and one way out.
That's right. Hint, hint, hint.
Mhm.
And it's such as Grandpa Jimmy has said that it's only 100 yards from one end to another, and one end goes straight up. So if you were to have someone drive in there, you're definitely going to hear someone pull in.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and and it's sad. This is 6 years, and we're not really not much further. And I would really like to see this case just thrive and just go one step at a time, just a little bit further. Each time I look at it, I just want to see it go that much further. So hopefully maybe Klein can get in here and get his feet on the ground.
Well, Klein did say that this case is solvable.
It is, by the truth.
And we just have to get to the truth.
Right. Well,
I mean, when you have written statements that don't even match by the parents, and then you can ask the people that they said they saw and that saw Deorr, they have no idea what they're talking about.
No.
They didn't see a child.
No, yeah, that's right. And it was actually kind of surprising to see how far Klein actually took his investigation outside of the public knowledge, going into the forensics and sending this there, sending that there, making sure that it was double checked. That's actually kind of good, to hear that.
Yeah. We didn't know that there was going to be undercover agents there either.
That was kind of interesting to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they learned a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like, Isaac is still pretty much keeping to his story. I don't know what to say about Isaac seeing a child there, but there's, he either saw one and he was, it was Deorr, and we're just all, going in a million different directions, or he saw someone else's child being used to play him off, or
he was led to believe that there was a child.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be hard for that to happen, since they got there supposedly at dark.
Right.
And then they left early for town.
Right.
Because Jessica started her period and they had to get candy.
Yeah, it makes no sense if you think about it. Listen to all Isaac's interviews, and he's either sleeping or he's fishing. So he really likes to remove himself from the whole entire thing completely. Why? Well, I would too, especially if he had nothing to do with it. I would literally want to remove myself. But, he's also still a person of interest, and was either paid off or told to keep a secret. And that was the only secret he had to worry about, was you saw him. And that was it, And that could be an easy thing, especially if he rode all the way up there and probably did take a little fishing trip while he was there, It's possible. It makes you wonder why he's twirling the bullet in the interview.
I think that the twirling of the bullet is just, it helps them concentrate. There's different things. They have those little spinners and little balls that you squeeze, to keep calm, or,
It also kind of seems like he could be sending a message to the parents. The process of why he was doing that is interesting.
I think it was more of a nervous thing, and
Right.
It helps them concentrate, and like some people use a pencil or
Oh, true.
I don't see Isaac being guilty of anything but
No.
just being the third wheel and the scapegoat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. I really think that he was told, because the way he describes how he saw Deorr in the back seat when he first saw him was a normal, outgoing kid. And he says that for every single time. He was just a normal, outgoing kid, you know.
Yeah, for his age,
And that could be exactly the words that he was being fed.
and Grandpa, I mean, he did not have dementia.
No, not at all.
Clear that up with everyone. His memory was 90%
Per Trina.
per Trina. You know, a lot of people, on certain days, their memory is 90%, depending on how much you have on your mind.
Oh, exactly. Gosh, mine's not even that great. And I could,
Either.
I mean, he drove himself up there, and he's been doing that for a while. And so he drove himself up there. He drove himself home. He drove himself and Isaac to a different camping spot 2 weeks later. I mean, you just don't drive when you have dementia. And if Trina really thought that her dad was that ill, she wouldn't let him drive. There's no reason, So for him to remember all the details about the place, to recall everything that he recalled, there's no dementia there. So you can't feed Grandpa a story and for him to go off of it. Now with Isaac being said that he has a huge head trauma, that is a good enough excuse, in a way to someone could mess with your head. It depends on how messed up, things got when you had a brain injury.
Mhm. They could have told him things and it stuck.
Right. It's really interesting, looking over here on my notes, how Vernal in the first interview, he says that he's hauling, he's blessed, he's risked getting through his, and it's like he wanted to say something else, but it says 911, and he uses the word dead panic, being in trouble. It's interesting how he uses those words. I don't know, maybe he's descriptive and likes to use descriptive words. That's not the choice I would use for my son being missing.
Right.
His mileage down the road changes. Says a half mile, and then he goes to 1.5 miles. Needless to say, we found out that there is cadaver scent where he made the 911 call. And here's the interesting part. He calls his dad. Well, he says that he called his dad. And then he claims all of a sudden that he didn't call his dad. And
Yeah.
it was such a horrible lie that it was like, whoa, why did you just say that?
Yeah, I called my dad. Oh, no. Then he changes it. No, I tried to call my dad, but he didn't answer.
That was it, he says.
That was
Yeah, that's a red flag.
poor Deorr.
Yeah, this is not
Okay.
fair. He doesn't deserve a cover-up story for his life. I hope that whoever is responsible, and some of us feel we know who, I hope that regardless of whoever's responsible comes forward with the truth, lay this poor baby to rest if he is passed, bring him home if he is alive, do something that positive in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, and a message to Jessica and Vernal, Trina, anybody that is said to have been involved, persons of interest that have been named persons of interest, those that are still here. Please do the right thing if you are involved, and do Deorr the right thing. It's about your son if you are responsible. If you are not, so many people will be the first to say that they are sorry, but do the right thing.
I agree. But they got away with it for 6 years.
6 years is too long,
Mm-hmm.
for saying that you'll never stop searching for him. It doesn't seem to be the case anymore,
No, and You talked to the cold case,
Yes, I did. Yeah,
so he's on the list.
yes, he has a file open for him. They have a file open for him. And let's see who else had a file open for him. Oh, Crime Door. The Crime Door app has a file open for him. The door is not created yet, but can be, and it's a start. And then you have, let's see, just all the coverage possible in this case is important. Just to keep it reminding, like, hey, don't forget about this poor child. It's sad that when you focus on one child, you almost become kind of blind to the rest, but yet you see them. But you're so focused on this one child, you just want to see this end. I'm a mother, and this is heartbreaking. My daughter is the same age, and I don't. This is dragging on too long. I know it's not my responsibility, not my problem, not all this stuff, and I could turn the other cheek. But if everybody did that, then this is going to be a constant problem, and
Right.
I can't turn the other cheek. If there's anything I could do, I'm going to do it. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Oh, yes. I could name so many people that I met through this case that
Right.
pick up the phone and call them or message them and ask them to go look somewhere, and they do.
Right.
And they don't even question it. They
Right.
just go.
And all they have to do is have a sheriff or a family member ask them for help, and that's it. And then that's that. And what's confusing is that NecroSearch was actually contacted and agreed to come in and, well, wasn't utilized. I'm not sure, if Penner does go up there every year to search for Deorr, believing that Deorr still may be up there. I'm not exactly sure why NecroSearch was kind of turned down. I believe that if he really was up there, or is up there, that NecroSearch could have been very useful. I also think that the Cold Case Foundation also has abilities to do all sorts of things to help out in this case, and it has also not been utilized. So it's a disappointment, maybe there's a reason for it. We're just not aware. We are, people of followers. We're not
What
the family, so we're not going to get the first.
the Polyclass
Yeah.
organization?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they agreed to help, and they just needed them to call, and they never got called.
No.
So many organizations. I know a dog searcher. I'll leave his name out. He could have been utilized, and he wasn't. Another person who was willing to do some searching was turned down. You just don't turn down these kind of things if your child is really missing. You just don't.
Yeah.
Even if you believe that maybe he's taken or he's already off the mountain, you still have all eyes and all hands on deck everywhere. You can't just rule it out. I don't think I would have ever left the mountain. I think I would have gone into a deep depression and people would have had to bring me food.
Well, if your child was really on the mountain.
Exactly. And there's a lot of professionals, and the reason for kind of the confidence of leaning on the parents, being persons of interest and possible even suspects, is because of this. It has come from law enforcement, trained professionals, private investigators that are also trained. You've got so many people that have literally named these two people as suspects or persons of interest, and the knowledge of their son's disappearance. So I have no choice but for myself to kind of lean on that as well, given the facts that been in the case, or at least seen the case over the years.
And when you fail 4 polygraph tests
Each,
and then you go to a sex shop?
yeah, who does that?
I
does
mean,
that?
oh, I'll tell you who does that.
Oh, the Orrin. Yeah.
Orrin and Orson West, they're
Copycats.
adoptive mom and dad did.
What, seriously, what is the call my Willie for? You just don't do that. So I've had some people tell me that they think that it is was not a purchase for a pleasurable moment, but rather that as sad and that it might have been, I don't even want to say it, but some sort of a casting for a memorable thing. It's it's also possibly the case for the Warren Orson case. It's very disturbing to think that that would mean many things, but I would just really hate to think that it was really used for such pleasure. That's just disturbing. Your child's missing.
They were laughing in the store, joking around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be so. I mean, those polygraph tests, they're rough.
Right.
Emotionally draining.
Right. And they were about to cry, or they started to cry. I would be broken down by then. I wouldn't even feel comfortable going out in public because I probably would look like I just died.
Right. I would just want to go home and just, crawl in bed
And cry, or not, or just feel the pressure of sorrow or whatever. But yeah, you don't go to a sex shop. I mean, I know it was Spencer's at the mall and they have all those kind of things in the back, but it's still considered a sex toy when you purchase it, and
right.
That's disturbing. So
Right.
I don't know what kind of innocent parents those.
And it seems like there's more and more children going missing.
Right.
Under the same circumstances.
Like the Summer Wells case coming out recently.
That poor little girl.
Poor little girl. Yeah, and of course we're not sure if the parents are guilty or not, but it sure does mimic Deorr's case a lot, and the parents aren't really looking too good. So, and then you have Ayla Reynolds, you have Ember Sky, you have Sky Metawala, you have Lisa Irwin, the Zariah's kids. I think I pronounced that correctly, and so on and so on, and it ain't gonna end. And it's a matter of cases like this being introduced to the public in the first place, not only because we want Deorr to be found and we want his case to be heard. There's a problem in our society, and the society problem is that there's children going missing under parents' suspicious care, and that's a problem that I would like to see stop. How can we make that stop? We can't make it, but we can make an awareness that this is what's going on. And so when people, we would hate to think that every time someone lost their child that we want to blame the parents. That's not right, but it's what's happening these days, and it's not a matter of just the focus of blaming the parents. It's what the parents are presenting themselves. So it just doesn't look good.
It's their actions,
yeah,
or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly, and it's kind of downright sickening. It's just sickening. Like we say, Deorr deserves much more than a cover-up story. I would have taken him.
I would have taken him. I bet there'd be thousands of people.
Yeah.
Standing in line.
I bet you his other grandma would have taken him. Doesn't seem like, I've heard, and I'm not sure about this if it's true or not, but rumors say that Trina wasn't close with Deorr. So, to see her put up such a fight, it would be kind of interesting if that's true. But for a fight for just a little while, kind of died down. Like Klein says, I guess we're not doing much different, but going down the road with signs and manners really isn't searching. But I guess I can give her kudos for getting his name out there. I heard Nate Eaton's doing some podcasts. I hope something comes out of that.
When he first started, Deorr was his first case he covered.
Right.
He thought that there was a child missing on a mountain.
Yeah. I think he did his best for the time being, and he's just not on the case anymore. So for him to take some time out to do a timeline of events is kind of cool. Like I said, hopefully something comes out of that. And Klein's podcast was kind of interesting. Some things that not all the public had known, but for the most part, I think it was already knowledge.
There were a couple things that I didn't know.
What was that?
I didn't know that he left undercover agent.
Oh, right. That.
The one friended Isaac.
And took him out to dinner and lunch and breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a whole new level of investigating.
Yeah, and some say, oh, he charges so much. Well, when you're using a whole
Right.
team like that, and leaving, undercovers there,
Right.
they've got to eat. They're
Right.
buying Isaac, whatever he wanted. They need lodging,
Right.
gas, and when you think about it, it's really not that much money.
No, and he's willing to take $25,000, only $25,000. I know it sounds like a lot to some people. We have 12,000 followers. I think Deorr has at least 12,000 followers, and if everybody put like just $5 into that for Klein to come back, I think that would be over the amount that we need. And he's willing to pay out his own staff, his own money again, which could add up to thousands of dollars. And for him to even offer to come back after all of this drama caused on him, even if we all felt at times that, maybe Klein wasn't sure about things, and that's natural for people to do, especially if they're trying to figure out this information. But I think it'll be really cool if he can come back. $25,000, yeah, again, sounds like a lot, but it really isn't when it comes from that many people. If you think about individual, yeah.
Mhm. And look how much he had to spend on court costs.
Exactly, unnecessary things. That
Right.
all could have been Deorr's,
Mhm.
That
could have gone forward.
Exactly. There's also, I know that, people don't think that there's a possible tip that's out there, but there's a tip for Deorr for a tip reward fund at justiceforbabydeorr.com. I'd highly suggest that, you check it out, look at the reward for Deorr and the tip, look at the reward for Klein to come back, learn your facts about the case, do whatever you got to do to catch up, ask questions. If you have questions, go to the Facebook pages. This case is wild, as we bounce around from the beginning to the end to the middle. There's just so much to cover. It's hard to be in order,
Right. I just love Deorr, and I never met him. Now we have thousands, 12,
Right.
12, oh, more.
Right.
With, there's several groups out there and pages. There's got to be probably 15,000.
Yeah.
People
So
that
many.
this child. They don't even know him, but they love him.
Literally pulls everybody in to their hearts. It's just,
there's just something special about him.
right.
I know every child is special, but
Right. Exactly.
there's something about him. Today, they have more sophisticated ways of getting the DNA, and there's so much more that they've been able to do.
Yeah, I think that, if they can get the right, it was really interesting also to know that there was a child found. We kind of knew that, through some tipsters, but in 2017 we couldn't get any answers on that. But Klein finally answered on that, and it was an ancient child. I think it was what was it? So yes, there was a scene kind of for a short moment there undercover. Not many people knew about this, but it turned out not to be Deorr. So that's kind of a bummer. We had our hopes up for a minute.
Was a child.
Yeah.
That between 18 and 24 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was kind of like right off of Highway 28 too, found by a couple, I believe, is what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of, for a little while, I was like, what's going on with that? Because it's not like you can blasted all over because you don't know who knew.
Right. And I was messaging Klein and
I know, I was just like all over the place. Like, okay, we know about this child. We're getting information from, way higher up, from a couple of higher up people, and we're just like, we heard about this autopsy and missing bones, found bones. It was interesting for sure, and I'm really sad that nothing came out of that. But
and that little boy in California, the motel.
I still can't get over that one. That face. You know, I know there's a lot of followers that wonder about that to this day. Sometimes, kind of how I kind of poked in, and put my face into the Facebook finally, and like, I, it's interesting though, because this little boy shows up September something, and Deorr's missing in July. So this is really a short time later, and when there's some people that have had conversations with some of the staff, and the staff, like the maid, I think the maid was actually kind of scared, nervous, and felt that this could be Deorr, and that this child was found outside of stuck in a car seat. And then you have the person who claims that they found him, and all this, and it just got really messy, wondering who this child was. But digging deeper into it, it appears that the Bonneville County had actually kind of cleared up the situation, and that this could actually be a different child. There are people who are aware of this child and who he currently is, if it is him. But yeah, that California baby, I've never been able to shake it off. And it's weird how Vernal can say, the dad, Vernal the dad, it's weird that he can say that he saw 300 pictures prior to FBI, or prior to Facebook knowing about it, and that he knew like 3 days before anybody else. But it's also weird to see him jump on Facebook and defend that he didn't know, and he's not aware, so it's kind of confusing.
Right, and for someone to give him money for a plane ticket,
right?
Plane tickets for either him and Frank, or Bill, or him and Jessica to go down there.
Right.
And
they didn't go.
And they didn't go.
Where's the money?
And they kept the money.
Right. And at one point, I want to say that they had their own GoFundMe, and people were putting money into it, and it was missing. Now, I know GoFundMes are used in random things, for like, there was a child that was missing in my area, an area that I live in, and this child ended up was not a result of an accident caused by a parent. This is a drowning accident, just a tragic accident. And they had a GoFundMe, and some people actually started to complain about how the GoFundMe was being used. But guess what? When you are depressed, your child's missing, you need food. You're not going to go shopping. You need your utilities paid. You're not working. There's many ways that you can use this. But the way I feel that the Deorr's parents used this was definitely negligence. And what was it used on? I mean, it's a good question.
I mean, they got evicted for not paying their rent, but yet they were making more than most people make working.
Right.
From the money was donated.
Yeah. So where did the money go, And I know that they raised some money for Klein's thing, but like Klein says, they didn't raise much, a portion. It's there's no one that can go around and say that they paid for anything, And I like how Klein says it, the public paid. Therefore, it's the public's knowledge, and for a case that would be from a real tragic accident that wasn't covered up or didn't feel covered up, I feel this would be treated differently. 100%. I think that the parents would, there just would be something different going on. More tries.
I agree.
And what about this car situation? There's I'm hearing that it's a Mustang, not a Corvette. But Deorr actually did some scratched this thing, and so it's coming out to play that there is a car or cars been stored on Dennis's property or at his house wherever he resided in Montpelier. How do you say that? Montpelier. They're saying that there's a car and a lug nut story being told at camp and in the driveway. I think that when Klein comes back, hopefully that will be checked into now that there has been more verification on this car subject. So hopefully we can look into it. And I mean, it's a tip.
So since the car was there in, I would say on Dennis's property.
Right. So it would be a Mustang scratched by a screwdriver on accident. I'm told by a family member that it was the older son of Jess's, but you know, it ended up being a story told by Vernal that it was Deorr. So I'm gonna go with the Deorr story.
He spent a lot of time at his dad's.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's where he worked on his cars, where he stored his cars. You know, it's kind of odd. No one knew he had cars there for some reason. You know, like Klein and Frank, and I mean, obviously there's people who knew that he had cars. They just weren't asked the questions soon enough. And now that this is getting cleared up, hopefully this is a tip forward, and I look forward to the answer on that one.
Yeah, so do I.
You know, cadaver dogs, any dogs, not any dogs or any searches have been conducted on Dennis's property or home, has been on all other properties and homes, camp, and surrounding areas, and even in Idaho Falls, but not Dennis's, because it didn't fit the timeline to some investigators, which, you know, if that's what they're focused on, then that's what they're focused on. But I just hope that, you know, because Vernal lied about it, talking to his dad, he lied about it. So there's that, you know, what was Dennis holding as far as knowledge? And then you have the confirmation that there are cars that owned by Vernal and another car that was scratched by a screwdriver, which is a story. So this is all playing out. And it's a little exciting. So hopefully this goes somewhere. I also think that, you know, Grandpa Jimenez he kind of has a point when we say a public statement that he makes on the news coverage and a visual on his opinion on what happened or what could have happened.
And he saw Deorr 4 days before,
right?
Which would have been Monday.
Right.
Monday, Deorr was at Grandpa Jimenez's house.
Sounds like he was really loved there. I don't really hear Jessica and Vernal talking about how he played much, you know?
No.
And all the stuff was being thrown out. I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I mean, I guess everybody's different, you know. So I'm learning that in some cases that everybody's different. Everybody grieves differently. That I get that to a point, but you know, like Klein says that. Well, at one point it's kind of confusing. Klein says that it wasn't the jacket, and then he says it was, but maybe that could have been for court reasons, you know. But he actually now believes that that was the jacket that he went missing in. And we all know that there were cars in a Ziploc bag found stuffed in the couch, according to Klein in the past. You know, why all these things? I mean, it's almost like they didn't even care if they got searched, or maybe they thought they were just going to go in the garbage and no one was going to go there. I don't know, but yeah, I do know that this lug nut and tailpipe story that was told to Klein that happened at camp also is told to happen in a driveway and at somebody's house where Jessica would wash him up when Deorr went inside. So, you know, when you have a lug nut tailpipe story that it's the exact same, and when you attach it to the very last day you saw your son, that's very significant. And I think both theories should be definitely thoroughly checked out. So again, let's going forward on that. Hopefully that's going to cover something. You know, I want to put this out there. I don't wish any parent, you know, to be guilty. And to be honest with you, I feel that if Vernal and Jessica are guilty, as stated, I feel bad for them. It's hard for people to say that when they're so upset, you know, emotionally over something like this, to see such parents do, if that's the case. I feel bad for them. I believe it was an accident, and they panicked due to CPS, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is that they're panicking from. They panicked, and that's that's a hard lie to keep with, and that's hard to go to sleep every night knowing that, and only they're gonna know that until they decide to tell the truth, if that's the case. So I do feel bad for them in a way that I feel like they love their child. I feel that this was an accident, and you know, I just feel like their age also played into play, and they panicked. That's my true thoughts on it.
I think that if it was an accident, if they would have called, even if he's already deceased at the time, and told the truth of what happened, they would have been charged with what? Maybe neglect.
Negligence, yeah.
And then, there wouldn't be any cover-ups. There wouldn't be any. I mean, look at the resources that they used.
Right.
The cost of bringing in that helicopter from Montana.
Right.
The money that the people gave to Klein. I mean, it's just all those search and rescue and.
How about that? That almost, when you say that, search and rescue, it reminds me of the first interview when Vernal flipped Snake River, search and rescue, and he just kept saying Snake River, an accident, and then he goes right into that, and he starts praising this awesome helicopter for its awesome movement. And this helicopter is said by Vernal to have been used in far more worse situations. How much more worse can this case get?
If my son went missing, there wouldn't be anything worse.
Right. That doesn't make no sense. And in that interview, he was also saying, and if that's not the case, when Jessica's like, just drop him off at the store, and he's like, and then if that's not the case, and it's almost like he already knew the answer, preparing the public for the worst case scenario, and it's just really telling. And I just don't know. I don't know, that interview, it just red flags everywhere, and I just don't know how people, those that do see the parents as innocent, I mean, maybe they're just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't know the case very well. Maybe they do, and they're just, innocent until proven guilty.
It's just that they said that he wasn't up there, that they can be confident that he's not there.
But then says right after that, not all stones are turned.
Right.
It doesn't want any help up there.
But we'll keep looking.
Yeah. So
I'll keep looking.
Right.
Up there. And
I do believe that he did get emotional. Like I said, if an accident happened, I believe he cared. And of course you're going to see at that point, because you're being asked to direct a comment to your son. So that can get emotional.
The guilt. I mean, can you imagine the guilt you would be carrying?
Right. Right.
That has to make a person emotional.
Yeah.
The guilt.
Yeah. Or just the remembering of the last view you had, and it probably wasn't pretty. Depending on the accident, and this is all going off this was there's an accident, and there's also Frank, though he believes that this was an illegal adoption possibly too. So, what if I would really like to think that that's possible, because then that means Deorr would be alive, and that would change a whole bunch of things, but it's something you have to weigh on.
If he's still alive and he is adopted, he wouldn't remember.
Right.
Chances are he wouldn't remember, I'm sure.
No, he's too young.
So would he be better off with them? But don't we want the answer?
Definitely want the answers. I tell you what, I bet you there are more family members that are in the opposite shoes than the parents that would have rather taken him in than to
Right.
have this whole situation be a situation. So if it was a secret adoption, again, why this is, it plays so far into this camping theory. It makes you wonder why they went to Isaac's house like 5 times, but they don't mention it in any of the written statements. But 5 times, it's like they needed him. They didn't want him to go. Grandpa didn't. I don't think Grandpa just wanted him to go. They needed him, and it was very important that they circled and circled and circled. I mean, you just don't do that for a person that you didn't care less about, And it doesn't seem like Grandpa even cared about him being your friend in the first place. So why? It makes no sense. Oh, and another thing, going all over the place, the oxygen. The oxygen. Why does Isaac, in his, I think, his first interview, he's surprised to hear Grandpa's on oxygen? Well, I thought he was on oxygen the whole time. Isn't that part of the story?
That's the story. I don't know if he really was on oxygen.
Right. It doesn't sound like he was on oxygen. Isaac didn't see him on oxygen. You would think that if Isaac hangs out with him as a friend, a buddy, and all that other stuff, he'd probably be in tune to that. Especially if there's limitations, Oh, I can't go that far. I got my oxygen tank or this bag I got to carry, however small or big it was. It would have had restrictions.
Right.
So it makes you wonder about that too. So did Grandpa have oxygen or did he not? And if he did, it almost makes you wonder and question Isaac's memory. I think that's a good point out there.
Right, and he could have long-term memory loss. Oh, it depends. I don't know. It depends on the brain injury he had.
Right. It's hard to imagine that I almost feel like I can picture it, and it makes me nervous, to picture covering up such an accident and to live with that, and I don't know about many people, but I've known some liars in my lifetime, and I've got some older kids, and well, I've been through my share, and they will go on and on and on as long as they think that they're getting away with it. And the sad thing is they're not. They're just making it worse. So it's very possible that, one lie just led to another, and they really care, well, if the truth came out, what they're going to be viewed as. And I guess I don't really get much of a different reaction at this moment.
No.
I think, what could we see as the parents to make them, look a little better? Well, here's one thing. Vernal drives this big old beast around. I don't think I've ever seen Deorr's picture on it. So there's one. You could spread your information. If you're handing out flyers and we don't know about it, that's great. Then my apologies. But I think a picture could do on the truck. I also can see that it's maybe not a good thing because then it draws attention to, hey, this is Vernal. This is Deorr's dad, and maybe that's attention that's not needed.
My child, I didn't care. I wouldn't care what people thought of me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my.
Call me whatever you want, but
exactly.
This is my child.
Right.
Have you seen him?
Right. Here's my picture. Here's a description. I didn't even hear a description. They did not share a description of Deorr during that interview.
No, they didn't. They didn't have a picture.
No.
And that was Monday.
They might have mentioned the shoes. I think that was about it. The shoes and the blanket.
Yeah, and that was an exact replica.
Yeah, there's more than one, people. More than one.
Replica?
And where is it?
Exact or it's the replica?
Yeah, right? I want
It's
to
not,
say, that they meant that. So maybe they just meant they had two, and this was the replica one that she was holding, or.
but the replica should be look exactly like the
And it
original.
doesn't. Yeah, it's thinner, and the outside of the thread is different. There's also a green one. Where are all these blankets now today? And the way she holds it, again, people do their own way. That's the one thing I'm learning, is that people do grieve differently and show themselves on camera differently. But it really goes past this interview. It's not just this interview that makes people think that they're guilty. So it's a good
Yeah.
6 years worth of stuff. One thing I noticed, Jessica's looking at the reporter. She looks back and forth at the reporter and Vernal, almost like she's wondering if Nate Eaton, the reporter at the time, is buying their story. It is very interesting how her eyes just really go all over the place. Like, she's really concerned about how the story is being told, and how much is getting believed. And you can hear in the background that I want to say it's Trina that's there in the background,
Yeah, it is.
trying to get this discussion about this medical bag. What is with this medical bag?
The EMT bag that was stolen.
Yeah, the following Saturday, I believe, during the search. What's the significance to that? Why would someone steal that? And, and how would it be significant for enough to be on the news, to be reported as an importance?
If it happened after the fact, if it happened before, then it could be maybe Deorr got hurt and somebody had to,
right,
needed the medical or the EMT bag. But no.
No, it was after. And so the only way you can think about is if he was still around town injured, and that doesn't make sense to me.
No. Why would you go back up there?
No, if you're going to take a kid, you're going to take a kid, and you're going to go. You're not going to stick around. I mean, that doesn't go for everybody, but for the most part.
Hundreds of people up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to go back up there with a child that you just abducted.
Oh, no. Vernal admits, I want to talk about this part, and I think it's important because it's coming out anyways. And I can cut this piece out. But Vernal admits that he went up past the reservoir and can see down everything down below, but could not see up. There is nowhere on his statement that says he went up towards the reservoir. It was always down the road to call 911. Now, I'm not saying that maybe he just left that part out, but if you're going to include every single detail, then why don't you include that as well? So, given the fact that he says that he went up towards past the reservoir, there is another campground out there. And at this campground, I want to say the very following year, there was some really weathered items found by a local. I will leave that name private. A local found these items and bagged them up and tried to take them to the police. The police did not want them. Turns out that these items are still in hands of this person. So that is another lead that we could have on this case. I don't know what forensics can do with that, but it looks like it's at least a year old. They are juice boxes, a kid's CD, a half bottle of whiskey that was literally stuffed under a log covered with a piece of wood. The photos of these have gone around publicly and are in a YouTube video. So it is public that this has been found, and it is also public knowledge that the police did not take this as possible evidence because it was contaminated by the person touching it. So, what do we do with that information? Well, that's something that we're working on, and hopefully that can be checked into.
Right. There's a nonprofit that has specialized labs with DNA.
Right.
And they can get anything anymore.
Right.
Not in 2015, but now they can.
And again, it's almost like a doctor. You have to have a referral. You have to go through the proper sources to get these kind of things done. So you have to have either family or the police officer or person in charge request this kind of service. So the service is available to many states, and I believe it's available to Deorr because we have Cold Case Foundation that's got a case open for him, or a file, and they are retired law enforcement that have they want to put their boots on the ground. They have dogs, they have helicopters, they have, you name it, they have it. They're willing to help. So with that, there is no lack of resources here to not perform something on these items to possibly even rule out the person who touched it, as far as the searcher. But these items are not found coincidentally. So that's my opinion. I think that these items are of interest and could be potentially clues on, when and where something actually took place. And you got Isaac stating that Grandpa bought whiskey and started to say that he started to drink it, but slipped and retracted that as, wait, no, he's in AA. Well, so is Isaac at the time, right? Or it was recently. Mm-hmm. So alcohol being brought on the trip for those that don't drink, well, I don't know. Maybe the way Isaac said it, you just like to have it for other people, or just to have it to look at it and remind yourself not to touch it. I don't know. But there is one found under a log covered with a piece of wood. That's suspicious.
And there could have been saliva,
right,
in the alcohol. Or I know that with the Orrin and Orson case, they did. I believe his name is A.V. Watchman.
Oh, I've heard of him.
He's been out there searching, and he got a hold of a specialist. They can. The way he described it, geez, they can get anything off just such a minute thing.
Right.
They can trace it back to the person.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah, I literally just met this canine handler through this case, and his dogs literally can scent fingerprints and footprints, and you can even have a dog track down the suspect by just smelling the deceased person, the suspect last touch. It's very interesting, needless to say. So there are definitely ways that we can, we as in Deorr peoples and law enforcement and whoever is responsible for giving these tests done, it is possible. And hopefully this will be taken seriously and looked into further. Again, we're just people who do our best to keep Deorr's name out, so we're not law enforcement and can't make these changes and requests to have done. But all we could do is talk about it, pass it along, and hope for the best.
Right. It seems like everything that's been tried has been shut down. But
yeah, and a lot of people, I want to say this on behalf of the public. I know a lot of the public has felt let down based on their previous donations. For example, without getting too farther, but there is an investigator, the third one, who many raised money, and I guess we just didn't get the results that we expected. Yeah. Needless to say, it wasn't what we expected. So, there's money for this, money for that, always kind of being requested for Deorr's case. And I get why people are shy of that, but there are only two things going around that is public, and law enforcement has knowledge of that, client has knowledge of that, Frankville has knowledge of it. There is a reward for Deorr's tip reward fund, and then there is Klein's return reward fund. So if you're willing to put in $5, times however many followers there are, that would be appreciative. And I hope that you take that every new donation being asked is taking as a new possibility rather than being ruined by the past. Oh, Jessica mentions in the first interview she doesn't want anything twisted, rumors rise. All right. Well, if you don't want anything twisted, there is one story that does not make sense to many, and that is you can't have Bernal next to your side at all times except for 5 minutes that he walked up the embankment to go get the Deorr. I swear there was a truck about to be mentioned there, but Deorr's name came out. And you can't have Vernal next to you and at the truck for 20 minutes. It doesn't work. So it's either he was at the truck for 20 minutes with Deorr, and Grandpa was never responsible for Deorr's disappearance, or Vernal was never at the truck, and Jessica lied about that. Either way, there's a huge story. Vernal and Jessica going down to the creek. Deorr's trying to follow, and he ended up going to Grandpa, and Isaac's now taking them. But Isaac doesn't recall Vernal and Deorr making it down to the end of the.
He thought they were
thought they were there.
And he turned around and they weren't.
Yeah, so that tells me that Jessica's story is slightly true. So that means Vernal was behind with the baby. That means, what does that mean? That means Grandpa was not responsible. So with that, that changes the whole entire story. It's not Grandpa was supposed to watch it and he thought we were supposed to watch it. No, there is no Grandpa involvement in this at all. This is Vernal with Deorr. What happened? Is this a story? Is was there really a 20-minute thing at camp, or was there a 20-minute thing at home?
Right.
You can pull in different locations. They could both work. I also think,
happened at his dad's house.
Yeah. I mean, you can't place someone in your driveway with the same story and not expect it to, not be looked into. It doesn't make sense. You can't also, this lug nut tailpipe story baffles me because it's literally attached to the last day Deorr was seen. Both of them. Both stories. One's in a driveway. One's in a very dirty camp. And the car was not at the camp. So, what's the real story? Why is Vernal in two different places with the same story? Here's my theory. My theory is that it happened in one of those places, and he is using the story to fill in gaps for the other location. So, with this car being mentioned so much, it's hard not to think that it happened closer to home. And with Klein taking the date back to Wednesday, that's interesting. And it almost seemed like he was also trying to point out that there was absolutely no witnesses to Deorr from A to B, and that's all the way from Idaho Falls to all the itty-bitty stores in Idaho Falls with cameras to Lador where there's none. That leads me to think that it's possible Deorr was never on the trip, or at least alive.
Right. I've always thought that.
And there's only so many theories you can pull out for this case when you really dig all the facts, and there's a few of us that know all the facts. And so, and I can't say know all the facts. I would hate to admit to such, but I know a lot, and I know you know a lot, and I know we know a lot of people who know a lot, and by sharing that constantly with each other, you get the bigger picture. That's what I think.
And the thing is, Vernal always stressed that he didn't want to go camping, and he was just looking for an excuse not to go camping.
Like, I wanted to work on my car. I had to work on my turbo. Well, I guess he didn't say car. Work on his turbo, this and that,
Yet he walked down to the creek
to go fishing. It is kind of odd that he doesn't like to go camping, but yet he's driving around in this beast, living in a van.
Fish either.
Yeah, that really doesn't make sense. And also being the trucker, that takes some possibilities with you as well, as far as how far Deorr could have made it if this was a cover-up story. I don't want to say it's said by people like followers, but there's psychics that like to get involved in things, and there's several psychics that believe that Deorr has been moved several times, or at least more than once, to keep law enforcement from finding him. Interesting and kind of disturbing. If it was a possibility, Deorr could be very well far away, being that his dad's a trucker.
Right. I just can't imagine. That's just so gruesome.
Yeah. That it it turns my stomach to think about it, but it wouldn't be the first time people do it. You know what I mean? And I guess that's the only reason of mentioning it, is because you got to pull out every possibility of that's just an idea. You know,
It's just, I can't imagine that. Moving your child, would you move the child in a cooler or a container of some kind?
I mean, if they didn't adopt him out and it really was an accident, gosh, I just hope they do the right thing for their own sanity. You know, like I said, I feel like they really love that baby, whether they look like it or not, or whether pictures show it or not. You can't go off of that. We're not family enough to know that that's the way it is, you know. But it
Right.
it it is still very upsetting to know that they are still suffering in a way. You know what I mean? That's just another. It just adds to another part of the case that's sad, is that you have these young parents that we believe had an accident with their son, a total accident. And being young, also, you can be dumb and be on drugs or alcohol, or you know, maybe you had one last warning, or your child can get taken away. You know, there's always those things that scare you and drive you to, okay, I got to call the police or do this. You know, and either action, it's you're going to go with one of them. You know, and I feel that they just chose to panic, and I feel bad for their hearts that they have to deal with this, and they get torn apart 6 years later. You know what I mean? In this cycle. And if you really did hurt your child on accident, come forward and just say it and get it out of the way. I doubt you're going to get all the trouble that you think you're going to get in. You know, um, I've asked questions in law enforcement about what the possible, you know, outcome could be for this kind of charge, and they wouldn't have gotten in trouble for a homicide if they would have came forward. You know,
Right.
I don't even think they would be charged with homicide to this day. It would really just be negligence, I think. And
They may have just done community service.
right, it's just not fair for the rest of their family. And it is not even about us. I guess, you know, for us, it's heartbreaking because we see this, you know, from an outside view, and we adopted him to be advocates for him, to share his face wherever we can, you know. But it's just sad to know that it affects more than just Deorr, more than his family, you know. It's sad. How did we get 6 years later? You know, what are we looking forward to? You know, we've got Klein possibly coming back again. We've got the items found. Hopefully we can get those I don't know, approved. Hope law enforcement takes it seriously. Uh, you know, I know law enforcement's doing all their best. I would hate to make it sound like they're not. So they claim they're doing their best. I'm going to believe it. I wonder if Penner really did do a search this year, or if we're done with that.
Well, it's always done the end of June. I just looked on East Idaho News and there was nothing. They usually cover anything like that.
Oh, actually, no. When I spoke to him at one point, I did speak to him at one point, and I asked him about it because it was last year there was a cadaver search done, and no, actually I don't think it was bone. It was just a scent, and he said, yeah, a cadaver scent picked it up, and the news totally like overdid it, and that's what I felt like was going to happen. To be honest with you, it doesn't need to be in the media, so I don't think he would report it because it hasn't gone too well with over the last several years when people find out that he is doing the search, because it just creates more drama, more conversations, and a rerun of everything, really.
And it's been 6 years, so
6 years.
how much media is really.
I say at this point, if you really think that he's still up there, get NecroSearch out there, call up Cold Case Foundation, ask for their help. They will help. They have a file open for him. They care. There are so many people out there willing to put their effort and time and money in just all what they could do to this child to help this case be solved. Just, you know, it's sad. I just don't see all the resources being used, and I would like to see that. But
he had the chance to use them.
yeah, and I mean they are a small a small building, small, force. But there's, there's people who volunteer to do this kind of stuff.
Right. He admitted that he has a small police force.
Yeah, that he's not set up for this. There's only one line, or two lines. Then
you admit that you have that.
Yeah.
Call in extra help.
Yeah. It's and the thing is that they didn't even need to look this up. It was presented. So it's, I don't know, maybe they have their reasons, but from an outside viewer, I'm not seeing all resources being used. I see NecroSearch could have possibly have done something. Maybe they would even, found the holding spot and all the other spots that was disturbed. Maybe
they could have brought maybe some evidence
right
out of there.
Right. Maybe this person that found these items would have been taken more seriously. The statement that's written for the car taken more seriously should definitely be looked into. Maybe there's a reason for that too. I don't know. But
and the truck that he just bought, he sold again back to his friend. It ended up at a chop shop.
Exactly. Total scrap. Like, who does that? You don't do that. They don't do that. These friends of his rebuild vehicles. And so this truck had to have been completely totaled. And why take it all the way to the door to get it scrapped when this circle of friends is from Idaho Falls area? So it doesn't make sense. I think I heard someone tell me that it was the only place that literally scrapped it down to metal. It literally flattened it. So
hard to believe.
It's sketchy. It's very sketchy.
A city like Idaho Falls wouldn't have that sort of thing.
Right.
We should look into that.
Right. And I also think that maybe I wonder how far their cell phone pings have been looked into. Like literally, like look up to the last time someone really credible seen Deorr, played with him, talked about him. We got Aunt Lynn who says she's seen him last, but we're not hearing anything about, the night. We hear he had dinner there. That was it. And Vernal came picked him up. We don't hear, I just don't hear a family setting, I guess. And, when Grandpa Jimmy talks about him, he's genuinely really sad talking about the last time he saw him, what he played with, and he just really seemed down and out about this poor little guy.
Right. And that was Monday.
Yeah.
To believe Grandpa Jimenez.
Yeah. So, and it's really interesting, how cousin Keisha posts all these crying selfies. Fly high, baby boy, answering to someone and says that dad died the same year Deorr did. Things like that. It's surrounding the same days that Klein puts out as such as Wednesday. And, and then you have this huge story about how Trina with her ankle and, and stepdad and grandpa are there for Wednesday to pack up the camper. But Trina's not there. No mention of her foot being hurt. Nothing, and she says she wasn't there. So, it's all over. Like Klein says, there's one story after another. You can't keep the simplest little things straight. And I find that deceptive.
Right, but yet she had to work.
Yeah.
With a hurt ankle or whatever.
And a couple of more things that Jessica, she popped out that they got gas in Montpelier, but she didn't say that. She said we got gas at the gas station across from the Clover Creek Hotel or Motel. That is in Montpelier. That's in where Grandpa Dennis lives. In that
Fair Lake.
Yeah, she's placing herself that far of a distance away from Idaho Falls. Maybe she just mistaken that, but she even put in the hotel. I mean, it's like she's recalling it from memory. You have Vernal, who did not get gas one bit, not in mention at least. And I mean, If he got gas on the way up there, I do not know about it. It appears that he has not gotten gas from the time he left the house to the time he got to the door. But the very next day, he stressed that he needed so much diesel that he got twice the amount needed because his fuel gauge isn't working. That's something you would know before you go on a really long trip. And if you're on that long of a trip and you feel like your gauge isn't working, you would stop already along the way and get gas, not wait till the very next day.
Especially if he's a mechanic,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
works on cars.
right. Yeah, it makes you wonder if that truck was that was seen on camera on the Gilmore Summit area. It looks like his work truck, and it looks like it has a blue cooler at least a cooler. I think it's blue, a blue cooler that's strapped to the back of it. Now, I just recently found out, I think you just did too with Klein's interview on this podcasting, is that Isaac actually said that there was a cooler missing. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a cooler missing, and there was something else. But yeah, the cooler missing, and you have this truck, very significant looking truck, with two people surrounding the truck. One's around the truck, one's walking down the road, almost like it ran out of gas. Interesting about that truck on that road and on that camera. It's fishy.
There's very few cameras, but there was one there.
On the day of July 10th, and I want to say it was between 11 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon. That also fits the timeline of their statements.
Of them being in Deorr.
Yeah, at least being away from camp. Where did they go? It appears if they were really at the summit area.
Well, Jessica said they got lost.
Well, yeah, for an hour.
Yeah.
How do you get lost in the door for an hour? It's so tiny. I mean, you can seriously, I think you can get on one building and see the whole entire town. I don't know. I mean, not an hour. Okay, I could see her, expressing the lost feeling of this is not the right road. Oh, no, turn around, go here. I can understand that, but for an hour, not for an hour.
No.
That's ridiculous. And I want to mention it as little as possible, but he did have a friend, and he did have red hair. And this camping trip in Vernal's stories, he mentions, and thank God this is not kid friendly, he mentions a redhead motherfucker 3 different times.
Mhm.
One being maybe 2 different times. I don't want to say one time. I forgot what the first one is. The second one was at getting gas. The other one was at the store, and both were for 45 minutes talking to him. That doesn't work in their timeline. You can't talk to the redheaded motherfucker pumping your gas for 45 minutes, who obviously didn't see your son but saw a car seat. You also can't talk to someone in the store for 45 minutes when your son's supposedly out in the car, or running around in the store. 45 minutes, that's a long time to be talking to somebody in line for JoJo's and not remember a little kid in the store. How many redheads does he know? It's almost like he's pulling shit from memory. Car in the driveway. Nope, that happened at camp. I gotta tell something that happened at camp, so I'm gonna use the last story that happened around my truck. There's that story.
And we know he has a friend that has red hair. He had a friend.
And this friend, also, the redheaded friend, had an accident October 2018. The accident was supposedly caused by speeding and loss of control on the way to work. It is also known that this certain friend was moving back home towards Idaho. And this certain friend also was, I believe it was getting to him. Deorr's case was getting to him. Many people think that this friend of his also might have had a little bit more knowledge that he probably didn't even want, but it was too late and was handed to him. Maybe have gone along with the secret. It's also said that this secret might have started to leak out. And I heard from, the grapevine that his accident is possibly set up. And with that, that's kind of, you know, thinking about that, that's really tragic. First of all, it's tragic that he had passed away. He was a bright kid going very, very, very far in his life, and certainly had a lot of golden years ahead of him. To think about this theory, but I guess it's plausible, and I would hope that it would be looked into as a possibility because Vernal did live with this person and did know the work route, being a suspect if he is a suspect of his son's death and the secret possibly coming out. I guess, there are cases that this does happen. So not putting blame on that subject, but it is a subject that has been brought up recently, and I do hope that whoever investigates this case can prove otherwise.
I remember that they said the seat belts weren't properly used.
Yeah.
And I also looked at the accident site, the road that he took to work, and it was a straight stretch.
Yeah.
There was no windy roads or anything like that.
Right. I mean, it's possible that, speed definitely was a factor no matter what if you were ran off the road. But, with the theory that's been mentioned, it's very plausible someone could have found out his schedule, gotten behind him, and chased him off the road. And that's a really tragic thought, and it's a conversation that's definitely not something that you just go around and you talk about, because this does involve somebody other than Deorr, and it is really tragic for many, many people. But if it was a possibility, and if it is a possibility, it is a case that baffles many, and it's a case that is looking like the parents are guilty. And if the parents are guilty and there's a truth about to come out, anything's possible. It does happen. Yeah. So I do hope that gets looked into, because that would be something missed if it wasn't. It turned out to be something bigger.
Right.
But this, I don't know how to wrap it up, but
I think that you should just ask everyone to keep Deorr in their thoughts and prayers, because his life mattered.
It matters.
Yeah.
His justice matters. No matter that's the right word. His justice matters. His life matters. It's not up to selfish people, even if they brought him into the world, to make the decision to hide him. If that's the case, he needs to be brought home for others to be able to physically go to his area of wherever he is and be able to mourn.
Right. There's a lot of family members that truly are devastated.
Truly devastated. Truly devastated. It's heartbreaking to see. I mean, when people dig deep into cases and they stick around, you get to see some, you get to hear and see some things that you just really didn't think about before you joined a case. I look at things a whole different view, I tell you what. And
can't even imagine losing my son or my grandson.
Just the thought of it gets me shaken up, Okay. I tell you what, I go camping in a whole different style now. People know where I'm going when I leave. They know how long I'm going to be gone. I check in with people. I make sure I have my eyes on my child at all times. The same age, turning 9, just like Deorr would be. And I can never feel the freedom again going out in public with my child. And in a way, it's almost a good thing, because I'm that much more protecting my child from harm's way. And and she'll definitely not go missing under my care or any suspicious care, that's for sure. But just the thought of her just, missing, no, I just couldn't do it. I give all I can in Deorr's case as much as I would my own child. And I guess that's a fair statement for many who have stuck around this long,
And it's not just us. There's so
No,
many.
so many more. We have met so many good people on this case. And yes, this case, oh my gosh, drama at first. Drama. It's gone. Hopefully it's all gone. It doesn't seem to be drama anymore. So, yeah, it's a comfortable place to be. Come say hi, ask questions. If you don't know all those sites, you could just simply go to justiceforbabydeorr.com and go into the contacts, and you will see all the Facebook pages that are all in good shape for conversating.
Thank you for joining us on this 6-year anniversary. It's a sad day to think that this is this many years later, but there's still hope. I give out hope. Don't give up hope. Deorr is still out there. So anybody who's listening who may know more, if you know something, please say something. It's just as simple as that. Here is a special note from Deorr's family. From a family member to Deorr, we think about you every day and have not and will not stop looking for you. And whoever is responsible, I plead with you to do the right thing and please tell the truth and bring little man home to his family. Please stay tuned to the Up and Gone podcast. We will be doing personal interviews on thoughts and those who have been affected on Deorr's case. If you would like to be interviewed, please reach us at upandgone@gmail.com. If you have any information about the disappearance of Deorr Kunz Jr., please call 1-800-THE-LOST. And don't forget to push the like button and subscribe to our channel for more. To learn more on this case, please go to justiceforbabydeorr.com.